The year is 1970. Cops arrive at a horrific scene where a young girl has been found. The young girl is malnourished, full of scars, and in pain. This girl is Genie Wiley. Little did they know, this girl would have a significant impact on the linguistic field. Her story begins in 1957. The young girl was born into an American family, daughter to World War II engineer Carl Wiley and his wife Irene. Some background on the parents. They're not very good parents. The first child died due to the coal after being left in garbage. Yes, garbage. The second one died from birth complications, and the third one, named John, survived. 5 years later, Jeannie was born. In 1958, Carl's mom got killed in a driving accident. This made him very, very unstable. More so was added when he found out that the driver who killed his mom wasn't given a life sentence. Because of this, he felt that the world had betrayed him and society had failed him. As such, he wanted to protect his family from the outside. He did this by moving into a different house. Ginny was 20 months old when this incident had occurred. He especially felt that Ginny was more prone to be corrupted by the outside world because he thought she was slow. His delusional mind blocked him from seeing the pain his actions had been causing. It's only about to get worse. Ginny at the time was 1.5 years old when she was locked away and left isolated in a room, often tied to a potty chair. She wasn't allowed to speak or be spoken to, and whenever she made a sound, she would often meet the fist of her father or sometimes a wooden plank. The beatings were not limited to only Ginny, of course. The mother and the son were also beaten for a number of reasons. This is how she lived for a majority of her lifetime. In terms of numbers, it was about 13 years. For reference, 4 presidencies had came and went. And yes, she was tied to the potty chair for 13 years. But fortunately, something was to change. Irene had been suffering from partial blindness and had mistaken a child service center as a welfare building. She told a service worker things she probably shouldn't have said, and a few phone calls later, Ginny was rescued. The father was charged with child abuse, and in 1970, the case came to light. The father then proceeded to off himself by putting a bullet through his cranium a few days before the trial, leaving a mysterious note saying, "The world will never understand." He left another note for his son, which says, "Be a good boy, I love you." The brother at this time was 18 and had run away. When Ginny was found, she was barely able to form any words. The only few words she could produce were single words like hello, hungry, and that's on a rare occasion when she talks. She had the bone structures of an 11-year-old. She was 13 when she was found. She could not stand up straight nor straighten her limbs. She was very pale and extremely malnourished. She could only walk in a bunny-like way. So I'm pretty sure that gives you some idea of what she went through. The doctor working on her case was a guy named Kent, and he determined that she had the motor skills of a 2-year-old. Her mental state wasn't that much better. When she did take the mental age test, she scored the level of a 1-year-old. She was extremely antisocial and had trouble understanding anything. In the words of the doctor, this was the worst case of child abuse he had ever seen. After the story went public, the news spread like wildfire, especially in the scientific community. Okay, now I'm going to give you some context. There's this critical period hypothesis which says that one cannot truly learn languages after passing a certain age. I mean, he can learn the other language, but he'll never be fluent in it. So Ginny proved as a challenge to this hypothesis because as a child, she had not experienced any form of languages due to her horrific upbringing. Okay, now that you have some context to why she was so important to the scientific community, let's move on. The rehabilitation and the study of Ginny was funded by the National Institute of Mental Health. The doctors investigating the case was James Kent, the doctor from before, and Susan Curtis. Her healing process was quite rapid. She was able to learn basic stuff like eating food and chewing food, as well as enjoying music. Her mental state was getting quite better and she was a bit more social. However, her language skills were still insufficient. This went on for about 5 years, and in between there was some drama. Okay, so remember the doctors I mentioned earlier? Yeah, so there was another researcher called Gene Butler. Gene was very protective of Ginny, not in a way you think. What she thought was that she could use Ginny to further boost her scientific fame. Anyways, moving on, in 1957, the funding was finally pulled because they no longer found any use in the project. After this, Ginny was allowed to live back with her mother Irene, but the mother didn't want to live with her, so she was put through a foster care. And if foster homes are anything like I see on TV, yeah, it's about to get bad. Her mental state then relapsed back to when she was first found. While in foster care, she became emotionally distant, mentally tired, and was unable to cooperate with anyone. In a sense, all the work in helping her was just thrown out the window. Susan Curtis, who often had a fondness for Jenny, tried to become her legal guardian, but the mother, Irene, didn't allow this. She was manipulated by Butler, yes, that one. She also had a feeling that Curtis looked down upon her by the way she raised Ginny. Eventually, Ginny was moved to a foster adult care somewhere in California, where she stayed for the rest of her life. A member of the research team visited her on her 27th birthday and reported that she was depressed and very lonely. Her story ends here, but my words do not do her justice. I cut off a few dark things that happened in the story, and if you're curious to learn about it, you can read up about it online. Okay, so like from now onwards, I'm gonna be focusing on the scientific side of this case. So if you're just here for the human side, then I think it's about time you should leave. In any case, let's move on. The main point of researching and experimenting on Genie is the whole linguistic stuff, mostly to settle the debate of language development. Let's go back to when I was talking about the critical period hypothesis, which is upon passing a certain age, one cannot truly learn a language. So, Genie gave researchers a very interesting situation, wherein, if given a good environment, could she learn language even though she missed her critical period? If she succeeded, it would suggest that the critical period hypothesis was wrong. At first, Jean was able to add new words in her vocabulary and was able to put two words together similar to young kids. After a year of treatment, she was able to put three words together. In children, after developing three words, a stage comes which is called language explosion, wherein they are able to learn new words and put them together efficiently and quickly. Sadly, this never happened to Jenny, and her language skills were stuck at her current level. She was unable to use grammar, and such, she couldn't acquire a new language. So, is the critical period hypothesis true? Well, you have to consider other factors in it. While she did miss her critical period, she was also malnutritious all her childhood. Another reason is that as an infant, she was quite slow. As such, researchers were unable to truly prove this theory. And so ends the interesting case of Genie Wiley and what she gave to the scientific community. Moral of the story? Well, watch out for bad parents, I guess. See you next time.